You know we love petty on game day recap.
That's not petty. That's just dumb.
Yeah. Why dumb?
Get him, Pete.
You really believe that they were more concerned about keeping him from getting a sack than winning the football game? He knows better than that. Then again, he might not because they haven't exactly won a lot in Cleveland.
Exactly.
I think every offense that Myles Garrett has faced has had a plan specifically for Myles Garrett. Some have been able to execute it, some have not. Today, the Steelers were able to execute it, but to Myles Garrett's point, it didn't impact the outcome of the game. But there are certain players, and Myles Garrett is definitely one of them, that you game plan specifically for. You start to work protections toward his way. You have tight end to help. You have backs chip. You do whatever it takes to keep him off your quarterback.
But it's not the reason that they lost the football game.
Not at all.
But it's just that's post-game players speak, right? Like he's just leaning into it.
You don't think he actually sounds like he actually believes that?
There's maybe a
well, you know, Pete never played. You know, Pete never played, so he doesn't quite understand.
And I wouldn't say that something that dumb if I did play. I can tell you that.
In all seriousness.
But also, you don't want to have him lay down for you. I mean, look at the heat that Michael Strahan took with Brett Favre going down on that one. You don't. What is he expecting? They're going to give him just a wide open sack to let him have the record?
You didn't get the sack. You didn't get one today.
Yeah.
It happens sometimes. But the fact that he's saying that that's the reason they lost the game, give me a break. The reason they lost the game is because they couldn't throw the ball down the field. DK Metcalf wasn't there because he was an idiot a week ago. And when he wasn't there, you look at these numbers to the wide receivers. Look who was the leading wide receiver reception guy at wide receiver. Scotty Miller had 3. Valdez Scantling had 3. I mean, they didn't throw the ball down the field. That's why they lost the game.
And that's what the Ravens are going to do. I think that's the takeaway from this game is without DK Metcalf, you saw zero respect for the receivers in the deep game. Every single coverage that we were watching there in those highlights and throughout the game, the defensive backs came up, press coverage, and they were like, go ahead, try to beat us deep. And they had a couple shots, missed them. They were not able to get open, and that's going to be what Aaron Rodgers is going to see against the Ravens team without DK Metcalf.
Do you like, and again, whatever, the game plan didn't work out. They were trying to avoid Myles Garrett. Whichever way you look at it, the Steelers lost this game, Brand. Do you, I guess, like the idea of this AFC North showdown coming to the final week here based on how the Steelers played today? Like, does it excite you to see that Ravens-Steelers game next week?
It does, because it's something on the line. And it's win or go home for both teams, because you're either in or you're out. And that's what you want. That's what you want as a football team, to be able to control your own destiny and not have to depend on someone else to do something to help you out, right? And so for these two teams, it comes down to them handling their business. But something Pete said about DK Metcalf. And this is why, if you're DK Metcalf, this is why you have to keep your head in the game. Because like Danny said, it was no threat to downfield, especially with this secondary, because the Browns have some corners out there that can actually cover people, especially in man-to-man situations. And without the threat of DK Metcalf, it's like, okay, are we, no offense, are we worried about Scotty Miller?
No.
Are we worried about Marquez Valdez?
That's offense, by the way. But we'll take it.
I don't mean it in a harmful way, but if I'm Jim Schwartz, I now know that I can go man on the outside and we can heat Aaron Rodgers up with our different pressure packages, because you're not like, well, we don't want to get stuck in one-on-one situations with DK Metcalf out there on our guys. So just, again, it goes back to you don't want to put it all on DK Metcalf, but this is why you keep your head in the game, because those things and doing the maneuver that he did in terms of engaging with a fan and getting suspended 2 games could potentially cost your team a chance to get in the tournament.
You know what's amazing, though? We sat here about 9 weeks ago and we said, this is all going to come down to Pittsburgh and Baltimore in the final game of the season. They all went this way and he went that way and they came this way. This team stunk. This team played well. And where are we? Right there. They're on a collision course for the division title.
I was actually thinking about that as I was coming into the office today, how many times we have said that. Just no matter where we have gone on this show, it's always come back to this division specifically, coming down to these two teams.
I look at them both, though. Do any one of you, the winner of this game, are they dangerous at all?
Baltimore could be because of Henry and Jackson.
Right, and that's the critical
Their defense
component.
is bad right now,
Right.
though.
But listen,
and
Danny,
Lamar's not healthy, too.
Pete brought up an excellent point upstairs. He says right now, if you're not one of the 4 division opponents and you're in that wild card, whether you're the 5 through 7, you really want to be number 5 at this point,
right?
Because you're going to play the 4, and the 4 is either going to be Pittsburgh or Baltimore. And so if you're Houston, if you're Buffalo, if Jacksonville
doesn't win the division,
if Jacksonville doesn't win the you want to play whoever's going to be the AFC North.
Chargers. The teams that are going to be on the wild card are the loser of the AFC South, the Chargers or the Texans. So, I mean, you're going to go out on the road and play one of those teams. You're okay. Buffalo could go out and play. If Buffalo went and played Pittsburgh, who are you picking?
I'm picking Buffalo.
Yeah,
right.
All day. That's what I'm kind of getting at, is the winner of that game next week, I don't think is that significant to them being dangerous. I think it's a team that you want to play.
I think the league in the AFC would rather see Pittsburgh win that game than Baltimore.
Why?
Because I think they could go to Pittsburgh and win before they can go to Baltimore and win.
Okay.
Because of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. You get those two guys going,
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough to deal with.
Because I'll say this, and we've been critical of Lamar just in terms of how he's looked post-injury. I think him having another week of rest, knowing what's on the line, I think we're going to see vintage Lamar next Sunday, because it's a win-or-go-home game, and potentially there's no tomorrow. So what are you leaving out there? I think we're good. We got a chance to see vintage Lamar next Sunday.
I agree.
All right, we're excited. Just real quick housekeeping. I want to go back to the Bills. We talked about Josh Allen and that X-ray. His foot X-ray did come back negative, according to Sean McDermott. So some good news.
I would
there.
be astounded if he plays next week.
Yeah.
Astounded.
rest him.
There's
Playing the
there's
Jets.
nothing.
There's
You're not
no
playing for
reason to.
anything.
Yep.
All right, let's hit a break here. We're going to stay in the AFC, though, when we come back, because the Jaguars, boy, oh boy, a little bit of a scare there, taking on the old man in Phillip Rivers. But nonetheless, Trevor Lawrence and Duval have their 7th straight win. We'll break it down next on Game Day Recap. Let's take you back to the NFL, back to that AFC playoff picture, because things getting clearer and clearer as the results start rolling in there. You see the Broncos sitting at the top. They've clinched the West, have a chance to clinch the #1 seed overall. The Patriots, Jags still at play, although the Jags looking more like a 3 seed at this point. The Steelers are in for right now, but remember, they meet the Ravens next week, and so those two teams could be flipped. And then, of course, Texans, Chargers, and the Bills all fighting for their postseason seeding as well. Let's take you to Duval County, though, and talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Guys kind of had to sweat out a win against the Colts today, and that game actually was in Indianapolis, now that I'm saying it out loud. Regardless, Randy, when you look at Jacksonville and just the trajectory that they have been on, we've talked about the transition from losing that Texans game into where they are now. 7 straight wins, and even in a messy game, they're still finding ways to be successful.
Yeah, they're hitting their stride, or they've hit their stride. And Trevor Lawrence is playing some of his best ball. Now, granted, he didn't throw a touchdown pass today. He threw an interception, but he had 2 touchdown passes on the road, and he made plays when his team needed him to. And this defense has continued to step up. It's a defense that's one of the better teams in terms of defending the run. And when you watch them play, you're kind of like, I don't necessarily see it, but the stats will tell you that. And so you have to go with it. But they have a ton of guys that are stepping up and making plays. Pete and I, we were talking about a guy like Parker Washington. In a perfect world, if their receiver core was healthy, Parker Washington would be their 4th receiver. And right now, he will be most teams' #2 receiver, and he's a dynamic punt returner. So they've just hit their stride, and Liam Cohen has done a great job, and he continues to do a great job in getting his guys to believe and play his style of football.
When you look, we talk about the defense. When you look at the defense, I say this all the time about this team. I tell people up there, the sum of the parts is better than the parts.
Yep.
Because you look at it, you take it apart individually, and you go, wow, the talent isn't great. And yet, when you look at it, they lead the league in run defense, which you go, how? And they do. And they don't give up a lot of big plays. They keep everything in front. And I think that's the key to how they play defense. I mean, they've lost a ton of guys on that defensive side of the ball. Last week, Jordan Lewis, their nickel corner, who they paid a bunch of money, went down with a Liz Frank foot injury. And so all of a sudden you look and you go, wow, now he's out. Well, Jerry Jones steps in, and he's playing with confidence now. Had a pick today of Phillip Rivers. And I think what they've done is they've instilled a culture there where guys believe. And I'm going to say this for the rest of the AFC and the rest of the NFL. This team isn't close to being what it's going to be in 2 or 3 years. If Trevor Lawrence is this guy, and the front office and this group gets the roster that they think they can bring in there, this is going to be a sustainable success in Jacksonville.
I thought this win was huge for Jacksonville because they're coming off the best win of this run against Denver. And there's a tendency for younger teams that aren't used to this position to maybe have a letdown. And maybe that's why this game was close. but they found a way to win. And Rand, you mentioned some of Trevor Lawrence's stat line. I thought maybe the best throw that he's made, maybe in his career, was the 3rd down and 10 that he made to Jacoby Myers. It was wide side of the field, and it was in a 4-minute drill type situation. They're running out the clock. I think that showed a tremendous amount of trust that Liam Cohen has in Trevor Lawrence to step up and make plays. It allowed it, didn't get the 1st down, but it allowed him to go for it on 4th down. They converted, were able to close out, give the ball back with hardly any time after a field goal late. I thought those type of throws that you see from Trevor Lawrence are throws that, frankly, he didn't make the last couple years. And for that confidence, for him to be able to step up and make those type of plays, I think is what makes this Jacksonville team very dangerous.
One thing, though. The 2 cute plays in the first, you got to stop with that. Seriously. Come on, Liam Cohen. You're a great play caller. A hook and ladder on the very first series when you're going right down the field. They fumbled away. You got to stop with that.
Yeah, maybe not get too cute too early on. In
No.
this. I will
Let
say.
him have fun. Have fun out there,
Have
Pete.
you met Pete Prisco?
That's right.
You want to win the game.
Fun.
Did you think?
Fun.
Was it fun when they were fumbling the ball away?
The Bills' hook and ladder looked pretty good. They executed it pretty nice.
Well,
The Bills
maybe
had a nice hook
they
and
did
ladder.
it in desperation mode, not on the opening drive of the game.
I will say it is Jacksonville's first 12-win season since 2005. They can almost taste the AFC South title as well as we're sitting here. They can still get the 1 seed. They need to win next week, and they also need both Denver and New England to lose here. Quickly, just to the other side of this one, because we're talking about the turnaround of Trevor Lawrence and the growth of this team. Because when we were talking about, Danny brought up the point of the Steelers and the Ravens and how you feel about those teams going forward in the postseason. For the Jags, does this to you feel like a team that if you see them on the other side, you're like, whoa, I don't know about that?
Yeah, I think so, and I think they've earned that. And I think they've earned it because I for one, was ready to write them off and didn't fully believe that they could make as much noise as they're making, but they continue to do so. And the guy that I feel is unsung hero of this offense as a whole is Etienne. And what he's been able to do in the passing game. And I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's able to do in this offense and how important he is to this offense. But this is definitely a team that if you see them in your bracket in the tournament, you're going to be worried about playing against them.
They're not weak anywhere. They're not great anywhere, but they're not weak anywhere. When you pick apart certain other teams in the AFC, they all have major flaws. This team doesn't have a lot of flaws. They're not perfect in any sense, but they don't have a ton of flaws, and I think that keeps them in games, and they won a lot of those games.
I think they're absolutely. I think the entire NFL feels as wide open as it's felt going into the postseason. And if it's Jacksonville, why wouldn't they be one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the AFC? That if they get hot and continue to play with this amount of confidence and team effort, as Pete was alluding to, I think they could be dangerous. Absolutely.
I want to give you final word here on Phillip Rivers. We were kind of joking before if we've seen the last of him. I'm not ready to rule it out yet, just because 5 years later he came back. But Danny, as our quarterback on set here, how impressive is it what Phillip Rivers was able to do? And if this is finally the last time we've seen him, what can you say?
The thing that I've liked most about it is I really think the quarterback position now is easier to play than it's ever been before. You're not allowed to get touched. No one can hit you. Every rule favors you. And the thing that impressed me was Phillip Rivers' ability to make plays because of his mind. I mean, watching him operate at the line of scrimmage, getting into even run plays that sometimes people take for granted, getting protections directed the right way, allowed him to have some success. In all 3 games, he gave him a position and put him in a position to win those games. I think it's unequivocally been a success. I know he wouldn't say that because they've lost those 3 games, but I think it's been a great story, and I think it's been a real inspiration and a lesson to be learned from younger quarterbacks that watch a quarterback operate and win potentially with their minds if they can make those closing plays.
You ready to come back?
I don't know.
That's going to be my next question. Like, are we getting you suited up anytime soon?
No, but my 13-year-old kept, why don't you come back, Dad? I'm like, no. He was just a little bit better than I was.
Just a little bit, Danny.
I'm glad that you can say that. All right, Phillip Rivers, by the way, had his high school team out watching him today, too. That was really
That was
special.
good. Yeah,
Shout out to Fairhope, Alabama, for being there to support Phillip Rivers. All right, time for another break. We go from the oldest quarterback in the NFL to one of the youngest, Drake May. Once again, that MVP campaign is loud and is strong. We'll break down his performance next on Game Day Recap.